I wasted my best years. Don't make the same mistake. If you think you still have time, I hope you're right. I thought I did too. My name is Thomas Whitaker. I'm 74 years old, and the house I live in now is too quiet for a man who once said he was doing it all for his family. I don't say that with drama. I say it with clarity. Because when you're in your 70s, you don't guess anymore. You know. I started losing my best years in 1979, Atlanta, Georgia. I was 27, working in commercial construction management. Long hours, hard hat, steel-toe boots, big projects, bigger egos. I loved the feeling of being in control of something that mattered, of watching concrete pour at sunrise and knowing I was part of something permanent. Buildings rising from dirt, deadlines met, contracts won. America rewards men who build, especially when they build fast and build big. But it doesn't warn them what they're dismantling at home while they're busy pouring foundations downtown. I married a woman named Patricia. Everyone called her Trish. She had this steady laugh that filled a room and softened even my worst days. We bought a ranch-style house in Marietta with avocado green appliances and a driveway that cracked every summer from the Georgia heat. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours, and back then that felt like enough. When our son Daniel was born, I remember standing in that hospital room thinking, this is it. This is what I'm working for. I remember promising myself I would never let work come before this tiny human wrapped in a blue blanket. That's the lie ambition tells you. It says you're sacrificing for something noble, but it rarely tells you what it's quietly taking in exchange. By my mid-30s, I was running multi-million-dollar projects. I was flying to Houston, Denver, Chicago. I knew airport terminals better than my own neighborhood streets. When Trish would ask if I could be home early for dinner, I'd say, "This project's almost done, just a few more months," convincing myself that pressure now meant peace later. A few more months became years, and years don't ask permission before they pass. I missed Daniel's first home run. I missed my daughter Katie's school play where she had one line, just one, and she practiced it for weeks in the living room. I told myself they were too young to remember, that childhood memories blur anyway. But I remembered, and that's what stays with you when the house gets quiet. And now that I'm older, those are the memories that visit me at 5 a.m. when sleep doesn't come back and the ceiling feels lower than it used to. At 45, I had everything I thought a successful American man should have. A bigger house, a boat at Lake Lanier, country club membership. People respected me. Younger guys asked how I climbed so fast, like I had cracked some secret code. Climbing is addictive, especially when everyone applauds you for it. You don't feel the height while you're going up. You just feel momentum pushing you forward. What you don't notice is who stopped climbing with you, who stayed behind waiting at ground level. Trish grew quieter over the years, not angry, just distant in a way that's harder to fix. Conversations became logistics, bills, schedules, school updates. We stopped talking about dreams. We talked about maintenance, about what needed fixing instead of what needed nurturing. One night in 1998, I came home past 10 p.m. The house was dark except for the kitchen light casting a yellow glow on the tile floor. Trish was sitting at the table, hands folded like she had rehearsed this moment. She didn't yell. She said, "Thomas, you're here, but you're never really here." And for the first time, I felt the truth of that sentence land somewhere deep. I brushed it off, told her I was under pressure, told her this was temporary, that once this phase passed, things would be different. Temporary is the most expensive word I ever used, because it kept me comfortable while everything else slowly changed. At 58, the company downsized during a market slowdown. I wasn't fired, but I was phased out, transitioned, replaced by someone younger, cheaper, more innovative, someone who reminded me of myself at 27. 30 years of loyalty summarized in a retirement packet and a polite handshake across a polished conference table. I drove home that afternoon with nowhere to be the next morning. No meetings, no calls, no urgency chasing me. And that's when the silence started feeling different, heavier than any deadline ever did. Daniel had already moved to Colorado. Katie was in North Carolina. They had their own lives, their own routines, their own traditions I wasn't part of. I was proud of them, still am. But I wasn't central in their stories, and that realization is hard to say out loud. I was a supporting character, someone who appears in holiday photos but not in daily memories. That realization doesn't hit like a punch. It settles like weight on your chest when the house is too quiet. Now I'm 74. The boat's gone. The country club membership doesn't matter. The awards are in boxes in the garage collecting dust nobody sees. I walk through this house and I can almost hear echoes of younger voices, birthday parties, arguments over TV remotes, laughter I was too busy to sit down and enjoy. Sometimes I stand in the hallway longer than I need to, just to feel like the noise might come back. Here's the truth nobody tells you when you're 35 and grinding in Los Angeles or New York or Dallas, convinced you're doing the right thing, convinced sacrifice automatically guarantees happiness later. Your best years don't announce themselves. They don't send reminders. They don't warn you that they're temporary. They feel ordinary, almost forgettable in the moment, like just another week you assume will blur into the next. They look like random Tuesday nights, like messy kitchens, like soccer games in humid weather, like bedtime stories you're too tired to read but should read anyway. They look small while they're happening, and that's exactly why you underestimate them. And one day those ordinary nights are gone, and you would trade almost anything to sit in one again, even just for 5 quiet minutes at the dinner table. I used to think my prime was ahead of me. Bigger contracts, bigger numbers, bigger reputation. I thought significance lived in scale, in how impressive my resume looked on paper. But the prime of your life isn't measured in income brackets or square footage, no matter how much the world tells you it is. It's measured in presence, in how often you chose to show up when it mattered, even when it wasn't convenient. If you're in your 30s or 40s right now, telling yourself you'll reconnect with your family once things calm down, listen carefully to a man who waited for calm and never quite found it. Because calm keeps moving further away the longer you chase it. It never comes, not the way you imagine, not wrapped in free time and perfect balance. There is always another project, another deadline, another reason that sounds responsible at the time, another excuse that feels justified in the moment. And then one day, the reasons stop, and all you have left is time. And time feels different when you don't have as much of it as you once did, when you realize it's no longer unlimited. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm simply aware in a way I wish I had been earlier, aware of how quietly life can pass. I built a career, something solid and respectable, something people admired from the outside. I just didn't protect my moments, and moments are what you miss when the noise fades and the applause stops. Don't misunderstand me. Work hard, be ambitious, provide, build. That's honorable in this country, and it always will be, and there's dignity in honest effort. Just don't disappear while you're doing it, because disappearing becomes a habit, and habits shape your legacy. Because one day you'll be over 70, standing in a quiet kitchen, wishing you had traded a few promotions for a few more dinners at the table, wishing you had stayed a little longer in the living room. Your best years aren't waiting for you in the future, no matter how much you tell yourself they are. They're happening right now, disguised as ordinary life, and they won't repeat themselves. Don't make the same mistake I did. If this story made you pause for a second, that pause matters. Tell me in the comments what you're choosing to protect starting today. And if you want more stories that remind you what actually matters before it's too late, make sure you like and subscribe.